When Pentecost Day arrived, they were all together in one place. And suddenly a sound from heaven, like the howling of a fierce wind, filled the entire house where they were sitting. They saw what seemed to be individual flames of fire alighting on each one of them, and they were all filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other languages as the Spirit enabled them to speak. There were pious Jews from every nation under heaven living in Jerusalem. When they heard this sound, a crowd gathered, and they were mystified because everyone heard them speaking in their native languages. They were surprised and amazed, saying, "Look, aren't all the people who are speaking Galileans, every one of them? How then can each of us hear them speaking in our native language? Parthians and Medes, Elamites, as well as residents of Mesopotamia, Judea, Cappadocia, Pontus and Asia, Phrygia, Pamphylia, Egypt, and the regions of Libya, bordering Cyrene, and Beth, both Jews and Greeks and Arabs. We hear them declaring the mighty works of God in our own languages. They were all surprised and bewildered. Some asked each other, "What does this mean?" Others jeered at them, saying, "They're full of new wine." Acts chapter 2, verses 1 through 13. When the day of Pentecost had come, they were all together in one place. And suddenly a sound came from heaven like the rush of a mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting. There appeared to them tongues as of fire, distributed and resting on each of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other languages as the Spirit gave them utterance. Now there were dwelling in Jerusalem Jews, devout men from every nation under heaven, and at this sound the multitude came together, and they were bewildered, because each one heard them speaking in his or her own language. And they were amazed and wondered, saying, "Are not these who are speaking all Galileans? And how is it that we hear, each of us, in our own native language? Parthians and Medes and Elamites and residents of Mesopotamia, Judea and Cappadocia, Pontus and Asia, Phrygia, Pamphylia, Egypt, and the parts of Libya belonging to Cyrene, and visitors from Rome, both Jews and proselytes, Cretans and Arabs. We hear them telling in our own tongue the mighty works of God." And all were amazed and perplexed, saying to one another, "What does this mean?" But others, mocking, said, "They are filled with new wine." We believe this to be the word of the Lord. So Pentecost occurs 50 days after Easter. There's a Jewish holiday that occurs 50 days after Passover, and it's called Shavuot, or the Festival of Weeks. It's the Jewish holiday that commemorates the giving of the Torah, right? So you can imagine, for the Jewish person, the Torah is their single center narrative that God, that's not true. The Exodus is their single center narrative, right? But after the Exodus, they have this experience by Mount Sinai where God gives them the word, the Torah, the law. And so this festival, Shavuot, is a pilgrimage festival. That means that it's one of the 3 festivals where Jewish people from all over the world travel back to Jerusalem to celebrate together. After the exile, a little history lesson if we think about it, right? After the exile to Assyria and to Babylon, the Jewish people have begun to spread out all over the world. Some people stayed in Assyria, some people stayed in Babylon, some people decided, I'm not going to stay here, but I'm not going back to Jerusalem either. And so it begins what we understand now as the diaspora, right? The spreading out of Jewish people all over the world. And so the clans, as you can imagine, held their Jewish heritage in common. But in many ways, Jewish people were and are quite diverse, right? They spoke different languages. They speak different languages. They ate different food. They had different ways of educating their children. They dressed differently. They even practiced their religion differently. But many would still gather in pilgrimage at this festival in Jerusalem. That's what's going on in the text today. You have people from all over the world, Jewish people, all gathered for Shavuot. They're together in one place. But how often, because of our differences, are we together, but not together? Right? We know that. And then our story has this spark. There is this spark of God, the Holy Spirit. God creates a spark within the human soul that would enable humans to be together amidst differences. Be together and really be together. So the miracle of Pentecost, the miracle of the Holy Spirit, is an issue of relationship with someone who is different than me. The gift of Pentecost is not the melting of cultures into one culture. It is the ability to hear, to traverse the difference that divides us. So America has adopted this melting pot image, right? We all have that. And I think that my family, my brothers and sisters and I, are actually a really great example of it. My heritage is English and Irish and Scottish and German. But I don't really have any of that heritage anymore. I've melted into being an American. There's a real critique to the melting pot image, if you haven't heard it yet. And I understand it completely. I lament that I have lost the heritage that was before me, because it's generations ago, right? Great. Right? I'm happy to be an American mutt. Truly, I am. But I am an American mutt. When I see and experience other cultures, particularly now, because we're in this wonderful wave of immigration happening in America, when I experience someone else with culture still, a heritage that they can hold on to, I envy it a bit. The beauty of language, right? The flavors of cuisine, the connection to heritage that they have to one another. And the critique, like I said, is not my own. It is a critique as a culture that we're realizing, we as a culture, we've begun to question whether we want more of a salad bowl image than a melting pot image. I don't know if you've ever heard that, right? But a salad bowl has diversity in it, but each part maintains its integrity. Does that make sense, right? It's different than chili, or, right? Which chili's great. It's just not salad. Boring. There's the obvious of the day, right? So there's something to be said about allowing cultures to maintain integrity while also becoming part of something larger together. And so with that image in mind, I have asked Chef Allie O'Brien to join us today. She works with our Wellness Center. She is the creator of the garden that you pass when you come into church. And she is going to give us a salsa demonstration. I've also asked Evan Schneider, who's part of the pastoral team for this summer that's covering for me while I'm recovering from surgery, and he's going to come up and help too. So you guys come up. I'm going to give the floor over to Allie a little bit. She's going to show us how to make salsa. If you didn't catch it, if you didn't understand why, I'm here for you, okay?
Orange and pink.
We didn't give her the, we doesn't want her to wear a sign. Yeah, Community Wellness Center.
Yeah, I should have worn orange socks.
Oh wait, I should also say, for those of you who have been around a while, that Allie is the granddaughter of Carolyn O'Brien, who was a member of our church before. And so it's kind of like a real gift that she's part of us.
Oh.
So, all right, thank you.
So me and Evan and I are going to make 3 different kinds of salsa in front of you today. And so Evan's first job is going to be completing the slicing of the pineapple that I did not get to finish. While I explain, cut off the core first, don't do it, and then you're going to score it.
You gotta talk loud. Can you talk loud?
Oh yeah, I can project better.
Great.
Okay, so what we're mostly ready to do is make the corn and black bean salsa. And so corn and black beans, that's a really good demonstration, I guess, of a south of the border type of salsa. Corn and black beans being 2 very seasonal ingredients. And basically all you do is chop up some cilantro, some corn and some black beans, and some jalapeno pepper, and you have salsa. So what we're going to do is make a little bit of room. And I think if we just kind of stack on top of each other, once we just make the salsa in one bowl, we'll throw it out. You guys are going to eat a lot today, so I hope that you are hungry.
We brought lots of tortillas for fellowship time, not here in the section.
Yes.
Can you imagine?
So here we have some corn and some black beans. Oh, by the way, it's always very good to rinse off your black beans. It reduces the amount of sodium that's in the black beans, and it helps you get individual beans so that they mix very well with the corn. If you forget to rinse your black beans, you might end up with a little bit more mush than you wanted to. And then we have some cilantro here. Who hates cilantro? Because it's a thing. Yeah. Okay.
Like cilantro?
I'm sorry. I'm only going into this one. People who dislike cilantro are called super tasters. I read about it in the New York Times a couple of years ago. And it's just your tongue is kind of chemically different from everyone else's. And would you mind mixing up some cilantro? This is very helpful, having a sous chef while I'm I love that she was like, this.
We need more Evans.
Yeah, we do. Okay. So I need my spoon. So, Pastor Beth, would you like to mix
I would
this
love
for
to
me?
mix it.
Great. I'm going to remove a couple of limes from my little bowl of goodies here. And would you mind slicing those in half for me? One thing that you always need when you're making salsa is acid. And that comes from limes, it comes from lemon, you can even use vinegar if you like, and what acid does is it helps to brighten up the dish. Thank you so much. Perfect. And this is my favorite tool in the entire world. It's called Citrus Reamer, and it does that. Oh, if you're really strong. It just gets all the yummy juice out of your citrus fruit without those stupid seeds. And I still see Emeril Lagasse on his show going with like this with the lemons. Like with his finger, like, oh, I'm just going to squeeze this lemon with my huge New Orleans hands. I'm just going to sit this way, and then the seeds
Or
kind of
on
come
top
out.
of my
You can do that too. Or you can go to service top.
There we go.
There's something about, feeling food in your hands. Thank you. And then after that, I'm just going to need a little piece of red pepper.
You want it cut?
Yes. last ingredient is some cilantro. And then every salsa needs a little bit of spice. So we have hiding in this bowl somewhere. Well, I have a jalapeno pepper somewhere, so I can just cut it up and add it later.
It'll make it in, so she's continuing when we're finished.
Yeah, exactly. So after Evan is finished with the red pepper, we will be done with the corn and black bean salsa, which is, I think, a very good demonstration of a lot of different flavors that may not normally go together, but in this case work a lot. And just to bring out everything, we're going to add a little bit of salt. Thank you so much. And a little bit of pepper. Okay, this is more complicated than I'm making it out to be, but I'm sure everyone can make salsa at home. Thank you so much.
Evan is an awesome chopper. It's like exactly the nice, it's the same size.
Yeah.
Like cut through the membrane. It's really beautiful.
You could not get yelled at in culinary school.
All right, corn and black bean salsa, right? Yeah.
All right, so the next one
She's going to start, and then I'm going to start talking about Pentecost again, but I'm going to let her start this next one.
So the next one we're going to make is pineapple salsa, because who doesn't love pineapple? And this one's actually really good. And just before Beth keeps going, the way to tell if the pineapple's ripe or not is you have to smell the butt of the pineapple.
I thought it was this. This is what I did.
Oh yeah, you can do that too.
I pull on the top, and if I can easily, without like, if I can just like pull a leaf out, it's good too.
Yeah, I'm that person who's like smelling it when I go to the store. Okay, so maybe on the back, because it's less
Pineapples have been really good though. I've purchased pineapples the last few weeks. They've been really good.
So I'm going to start making pineapple salsa. It's going to have a lot of the, same flavor profiles going on as the other salsas. And then
ingredients for them? What ingredients are going with pineapple?
it's going to be this, a little bit of honey and salt, some lime juice, scallion, and red pepper.
Okay, got it. So while they're chopping, right, I want to just recognize the folks who read this morning. So who read the Acts text? And what language did you read it in? German. Okay. And then Young, right? What did you read it in? Korean? Okay. You read it in Thai? French. Someone else?
Spanish.
And Mandarin? Okay. And so, besides languages though, right, we have a lot of differences to overcome, right? So we could have cultural differences. So each of the people who read, like, if they were living in that place today, what they ate for dinner last night would be radically different, one from another. Maybe a little bit the same in some, but some very, very different, right? And so think with me, what are the other differences that we have to traverse when we're trying to be together and yet be different?
There's physical boundaries or customs that cultures practice. So I don't know if many of them off the top of my head, but there's certain distance you have to keep when you meet somebody. There's a show of respect. When I was in Japan, one of the things they said was when somebody gave you a business card, in America usually we take the business card and just look at it and run it in our pocket. In Japan, you had to make a big fuss over the business card. You had to look at it, turn it over, acknowledge that it was really very special.
There's cultural differences that we're having to traverse. What other kind of differences do we have to traverse when we're relating to one another? Debbie?
I think we could be more together with everyone, get along with everyone.
Yep. Thanks. What other differences do we have to traverse? How we process life, right? So I was thinking about questions that are easy. How many morning people are there here? Right? And how many night owls? Right? I mean, that's a really simple thing, but there's a lot, not only do we process things differently, but we do it at different times of day, right? So if we're gonna have a serious conversation with someone, who maybe we have different differences, I'm not gonna have a really serious conversation with my husband at 8 o'clock in the morning. Even if he's been up with coffee, I'm just not gonna do it, right? Because he's a night person and I'm a morning person, sort of, right? What other differences?
How we address the different generations.
Age stuff, right? Absolutely. So here's the interesting question that I was trying to think of clever questions. Think of your first television that you remember. How many channels did you get? Someone said 2, someone said 4, 7, 5, 10, 13. How many, you remember how many channels you got on your TV?
I got about from channel 2 to channel 11.
Yep, yeah. I'll be honest, I remember TV that way. It took a while for me to think about it though, right? Like I have a really hard time remembering pre-cable. I'm just being honest. I'm being honest, and you guys can laugh at me all you want. If we had the kids come in here, they would have no idea what we're talking about. Right? Yeah. So there's age issues of how, right, our reference points, right? When we were, the worship team was talking about Memorial Day a few weeks ago, we were talking about celebrating it, and even around the table, we vary on our reference point to war, and that affects what we think of war, and that affects what we think of veterans, and that affects what we think of death, right? So the World War II generation doesn't have the same opinions or reference point that I do because they sent my dad to Vietnam, right? I mean, like, and he came back with nobody went with, right? So it's just a different, like we have a different reference. So we talked about cultures, we talked about age, we talked about perspectives, how we learn, political. We don't have to get into it, but it would be an interesting thing, right? To not just ask where do you get your news, although that would be interesting, right? Where is your go-to place to get the news? But it would be interesting for us to try to think of what is the 1 or 2 stories in the news today that you are actively following. That we would have radically different answers to that. What is most important to you about what's going on in the world today? Not yet, Debbie, okay? How about gender differences, right, to get over? And the more we're learning, right, that gender is this like really colorful spectrum, right? That gender is not a male or female issue, that we are all on a spectrum of gender, and that there's a lot more to that spectrum than any of us would have ever imagined when I was a child, right? On the front cover of Time magazine, either this week or last week, I guess, was one of the actors that's playing in Orange is the New Black, right? And she's a transgender woman playing a transgendered woman, or transgender man. She's a transgender person playing a right? Like we just laugh, but that's exactly illustrating what I'm saying, is that there is a spectrum that we knew nothing about when I was a child, right? But to overcome, or to, not overcome, to traverse that difference, it takes work. How you doing over here? Great. Yeah? Salsa 3? Yep. Oh, this is salsa 2. Fantastic. Okay, so this is pineapple and a little red pepper, some scallions, salt and pepper, right? Honey. Thank you for remembering. And what's this one got in it?
This is going to be tomato, some scallion. I have a bulb of garlic that's hiding somewhere. It might be in the church.
Oh,
No, it's me.
it does look like garlic.
So I'm going to substitute scallion, but normally I would do like red onion and garlic with this one. And then, yeah, you mind running to, oh my God, yes. So many helpful people around here.
Yeah, very
Shopping, like,
I know, they're very helpful. So, are you at a place where I can start and ending?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, we're good. Let's start and ending.
First, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is anybody else back to your throat going?
Smell it. It smells really good up here. It does smell really good up here. It does. So go back with me to language, right? Have you ever been in a conversation, and this isn't just language, it could be with a toddler, right? When you're talking to a child who's just learning to talk, and their parents totally know what they're saying, but all the rest of us are like, what? What? And then you look at the parent finally, right? It's the same thing that happens with languages, right? So when you're in a relationship, I find this fascinating. When you're in a relationship with someone who speaks a different language than you, if you spend time with them, their accent becomes less of a problem, right? So it's not a matter of them speaking more clearly. It's a matter of your ear adjusting to them, and that takes time to adjust. And so when I was thinking about Pentecost and this miracle of being able to understand and be different and in the same place together, I was wondering if what the Holy Spirit does is adjust our heart in the same way that our ears adjust to language, right? That if Pentecost isn't a real story, right? It's not a literal story. It's meant to be taken allegory, but the meaning of it is very true for us. The miracle of Pentecost, the miracle of the Spirit, is an issue, of relationship. Relationship with someone who is different than me. Diversity is incredibly hard, right? Diversity is difficult, but God gave us the Holy Spirit to maintain relationship amidst diversity. And so my prayer for us is that we would yield ourselves to the Holy Spirit that is within us. That we would listen with our hearts, right? So that our hearts would adjust, just like our ears adjust when we listen to one another. Amen.